everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Check out my comics, Big Baby and STARCRASHER at KINGCOMICS.CA. Today, guys, Liam Sharpe Day, we're taking a look at BLOODSEED, issue number 1 from October 1993. So this is what Liam Sharpe jumped onto once he was done with Death's Head. As you'll see with the artwork on the cover and on the inside, definitely I feel like this is moving more towards Liam's more natural style. And subject matter as well, things that he actually is interested in drawing. Not that I don't think he was interested in drawing Death's Head. It was probably, the beginning of his career and happy to have the contract. But this definitely feels more in line with what his strengths are geared towards. Pretty cool cover here. Interesting character. I like the interesting kind of, almost melding of fantasy and sci-fi in the design of, whatever this mechanical underwear he's wearing is. And this helmet, I think, looks really cool. It's got a bit of a Geiger feel to it and just very different from typical mask designs. So I really appreciate it. I find it's somewhat original and interesting. You've got basically kind of a techno-barbarian, I guess is how I describe this here. And you've got the technological elements in the background. And that kind of defines a series where it seems to start off with fantasy, or from the starting point of fantasy type stuff, Conan type stuff. But then moves into more technological aspects as we go through the book. And there's only 2 issues, so kind of a panning for gold with these 2 issues. Great artwork, but not a series that I hear a lot about that's really well known. I found this in the dollar bin, so I was very happy to find it. Other than that, let's just have a look inside, right? This is from the Marvel Frontier Comics, which basically is a rebranding of Marvel UK. For some reason, I feel like maybe the Marvel UK stuff wasn't selling quite well, so they decided to rebrand it. But again, 1993 Marvel Comics UK Limited for the copyright. So definitely just basically the continuation of Marvel UK. So script, plot, art. So script, plot, art. We've got Paul Neary, Liam Sharpe, Cam Smith is the inker, letters, Ellie DeVille, whoever that is, colors, Steve Whitaker, and that's where we're going to stop. So right away, you can tell there's quite a difference aesthetically with what we saw in Death's Head. Again, I definitely feel like this is more in line with Liam's natural style and what he's interested in. Nowadays, he just put out an amazing issue of Conan. I've talked in the last few videos about how I need to get out to the comic shop and get some more recent stuff. That would definitely be one of them if I can find it, the Conan issue. And also soon he's going to be putting out McFarlane's going to be putting out the first issue of Spawn the Dark Ages, which is drawn by Liam Sharpe as well. So I definitely need to get my hands on those because I'd love to review them for the channel. And I love Liam Sharpe's artwork. And this is definitely a step in the right direction as opposed to what we saw in Death's Head, which wasn't bad in any way. But remember I said it was kind of a hybrid of like a Simon Bisley with Jim Lee kind of vibe in the artwork and that 90s hatching. Here we're losing almost all of that and we're going with a much more illustrative style, which I like. And boom, we open up after the first page to a double page splash. So again, let me just introducing us to the character here in quite a shitty situation, right? In a snowstorm, naked, bleeding, beaten. And then we get kind of a flashback to what he was before, right? And he says, I am Lysander, warrior, king, and champion of the people, and Alicia, my beautiful queen. I'm hoping the boobies won't offend YouTube too much all the way throughout. I think that's maybe why this title was made for adult, how do they put it, for mature readers. It's just because you see a bunch of boobies in here. But like this page here, I definitely feel still a little bit of the Simon Bisley influence in as far as the anatomy and the musculature and stuff, but much more of I would say a Barry Windsor Smith influence here, a Conan influence. So the stuff he's doing here, again, to me looks awesome and, well suited to Conan. So it makes sense that he did that series. Some of the extra fine hatching on this kind of sculptural element here in the foreground, I feel is very reminiscent of Barry Windsor Smith. I can't believe that there's no influence there on Liam Sharpe from Barry Windsor Smith. All the plant stuff down here, combining the very illustrative stuff with kind of the muscular physiques and the bare breasts and all that stuff. Not that Barry Windsor Smith could do that back in his day on Conan, right? But because this is for mature readers, you can show a little bit of nipple. This is like almost a female version of Thor here, which is kind of cool. But yeah, just a beautiful image with, poster worthy, some, fantasy citadels in the background, lots of, fantasy tends to incorporate kind of civilization, but with, still lots of wood and forest and natural lands that haven't been ravished by modern technology, right? But just a beautiful double page splash here. Took a few days to draw this, I'm sure. And again, just much more in his naturalistic style. We see a little bit of what's happened to him, right? Where he's confronted here by these savage kind of ape men. To me, they kind of reminded me of the ape men from 2001 if they had discovered the monolith and steroids. That's basically what you've got here. Always think it's funny, you know, when they cover up the genitalia with just lots of hair here. So he's just got insane tufts of pubic hair. But a cool looking design overall for, you know, if you ask someone to draw kind of a roided out ape man. I think that's a pretty good look there. He's got a skullet too, which is cool. And this whole sequence being kind of monochrome, I think works really well, right? And then as it contrasts with him later on kind of stuck in the snow. And what is happening to me, the typical thing where, you know, he's getting flashes of memory, but he doesn't quite remember what happened. And again, this character, you know, you got to think that he's definitely inspired by Conan. And there's kind of a coloring mistake that even leads even more to us thinking that. So up to this point, I'll just go back real quick. So I didn't point it out, but his hair is clearly kind of, he's a redhead, right? He's a ginger. And then, you know, as he moves into this cave here and you get the first kind of technological elements, right? And to him, it's like completely mysterious. He has no idea what all this stuff is, right? All of a sudden his hair is kind of a dark look or a dark brown. So he does end up looking a lot like Conan here, right? On this page. And that's a coloring mistake. You know, maybe they're trying to darken it because they're in a dark cave and the colors wouldn't be quite as saturated and bright. But that definitely reads as brown or dark hair to me rather than red hair. And to keep it consistent with the character, I feel like you would add in the red hair no matter what. This is kind of a funny sequence, right? Because he has no idea clearly about technology and guns and modern or even postmodern science fiction weapons. So he says, could this be one? He's looking for a weapon, right? A sort of club or catapult. It fits the hand. Perhaps the stud beneath my finger will provide a clue. Click, no. So basically, he doesn't know anything about guns. So basically, you know, had this thing been loaded, he would have shot himself in the face there. And then he picks something else here and he says, then I see it amid the clutter, blood red and lethal, a weapon worthy of a king. Yes, I feel ready for anything. Just a big wrench, right? A big monkey wrench. Interesting, but he doesn't know what it is, right? And just the environment that he's in. Again, I love just the mix of fantasy and tech and sci-fi mixed together. These huge gears and stuff. Beautiful stuff. You know, some rays of light kind of shining in there. More boobies. And buttocks, I guess. Yeah, it does have to be said that he's walking around naked as well, right? Just, you know, there's always something frowned upon. You can show ladies' boobs and you know, the top part of their vaginas, but let's not see any dongs. The sequence is interesting. He's got kind of a bit of a flashback here. And then as he's reeling, turns around to be confronted by this weird creature. I don't know how successful this design is overall. Not my favorite for kind of a subterranean dwelling monster. But I do appreciate the bits up here where he's got kind of almost like a light at the end of his head here, which is reminiscent of those fish. I always forget the name that, you know, attract their prey in the darkest part of the oceans by having that little light kind of sticking out of their head, lighting it up, and that attracts their prey and then they eat it, right? So I assume that's where the inspiration came from that. I think the idea is good. Some of the, you know, realization of it doesn't work quite as well for me, but the concept is good. The idea is good. And you'll see, I feel like as we're going to move along, some of the pages start to suffer a little bit from deadline-itis or something. So other pages, very detailed and lavish, and then not so much on the way throughout. So this splash page is pretty cool, though, with these blue demons. Kind of an interesting choice for the color, but it's very contrasting, so I think it works. And just kind of a cool, there's something about the colors here, and the mix of colors I think works really well. Great splash. And just like I mentioned a few issues ago when I was doing the Wolverine or Spider-Man and Wolverine review, Liam Sharp kind of doing the anchor image thing where each page has kind of one bigger, interesting image, just like this one here, right? Where he's kind of crouched down next to this pseudo pterodactyl thing. And over here, where I guess he's helping it out, right? Because it talks to him. My message reached you. I am in luck. You are a healer. If you truly do not know, I have much to tell you. At least I can repay you for saving me. Saving you. You're dying, bird thing. No, you have the power to undo injury. Use it now. So apparently, you know, this pterodactyl dragon thing knows more about our guy than he does. He's able to take off. carrying our barbarian with him and then outfitting him with that cool kind of design that we saw on the cover here. So finally we get our character a little bit more realized. And then, you know, I got to say, all of a sudden, there's a bit of an artistic shift here where I feel like he's reverting back to that Simon Bisley kind of influence with the musculature and the veins and stuff. Not that I'm against it or anything, but it just feels slightly different aesthetically than what we've seen before. But I still think it works pretty well all around with the rest of the book. Just a great shot. And again, that cool helmet that he has, I think just a very different original design. I've never really seen anything quite like it. So I think it's fun. And yeah, so another page where it's kind of hit or miss, right? So this huge kind of robot character. So again, introducing that sci-fi technological element into the fantasy part of it. I think this design's really well done, really cool. All the textures and little bits and detail and stuff, almost manga-esque to a certain extent, right? Works really well. And then you just get a few panels here where like the level of detail just kind of drops and you can feel that this was definitely drawn very quickly. Even these down here, right? So the art kind of drops off a little bit near the end. And, you know, I got to mention, definitely feeling a lot of the Frazetta influence too, and as far as the designs and the layouts and stuff, right? This kind of shot down here, I think it looks really cool. The overlapping art, right? So you've got a tree coming up here and then, you know, the moon overlaid on top and the planets and stuff, and this shot of this action sequence works really well. It's not quite an actual panel, but yeah, it is, right? And just the mix of technology and fantasy, I think, just works really well in like a panel like this. And the decorative kind of elements to the page and the panel layout, I really, really like. Lots of boobies in this one, right? You can get some girl butt all the way throughout. So kind of an illusion that's going on here where he's meeting up again with his queen, who clearly probably something happened to her. She was killed. We don't quite know. Maybe we'll find out next issue. But then she starts to multiply. So he obviously realized it's some sort of illusion, not real, right? So as he walks through this facility here, as he approaches this tube-like thing, almost like a train, he gets attacked by this weird spider creature. So he gets in what he calls a carriage, right? Because of his conception of the world, that fantasy thing, again, merging with the technology, and uses the carriage to kind of fly out of there and escape. And that's a pretty cool shot here. Very cool. Again, an interesting layout, the double page splash, right? With the, you know, interspersed panels here, giving us some storytelling, continuing the sequence as well. And just that little bit of overlap here, I think makes things just a little more interesting and layered. Pretty phallic, I gotta say, with all the snow and stuff. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I love the splash here for this kind of technological citadel that he's drawn back here. I think it looks really cool. His version, again, of, you know, sci-fi kind of technology. Kirby did it best, but obviously everyone after that did their own version of it. I think this looks great. And again, another page where I feel like, you know, maybe not so much up here, but in these panels here, the art drops off just a little bit, becomes a little more, I mean, dirtier, grungier, a little sketchier as well, probably drawn a lot faster than everything else, right? The mask not quite as well defined as what we saw earlier. And then, boom, just leaves us on this last page. And funny enough, when we get to here, I feel like he reverts back to just a little bit of that kind of West Coast, Scott Williams, Jim Lee kind of hatching on this character here. So it starts to resemble a little bit more the image style. And we hadn't seen a lot of that in this issue. So I just thought that was a little bit weird. Weird choice. And there's somewhere where they mention, I don't know if it's here. I guess not. Talking out of my ass. So next issue, a female counterpart causes Bloodseed to doubt his sanity in Bloodseed #2, on sale in only 30 short days. And yeah, so Bloodseed, just a 2-issue miniseries. So we've only got one more issue of these to look at, which we will be looking at my next Liam Sharpe review. There you go, guys. That is it for Bloodseed #1. If you're still watching and you are subscribed to the channel, thank you so much for the loyalty. I really do appreciate it. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It really helps the channel out, helps us grow, helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. Speaking of comic books, I have my own Big Baby and STARCRASHER. You could check those out at KINGCOMICS.CA. Trying to hit a new milestone, so any extra watch hours you guys can put in, extra videos you can watch would really help me out to hit that next milestone. So once again, thank you guys for watching, taking the time to do so, and have yourselves an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents STARCRASHER one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.